Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. I hope you're having a beautiful start, finish, or end to the day, whatever it is. We're coming in with another episode of Q&A. What is happening, guys? We are going to start this episode in 2 minutes. We're going to rip in with some great questions that we've got prepared for this week. Obviously, we've done a number of coaching calls this week, and I've got to say, these coaching calls have been incredible. I think the men's call on Tuesday night was unreal. So to the guys that come into that, congratulations, fellas. Like, really well bonded group. I absolutely loved it. We also did 2 coaching calls this week in our women's group. We did one at 8 p.m. Wednesday night for the UK girls, and then we did one at 8 p.m. last night for the Aussie girls, both UK and Australian times, and it was a really, really, really good chat, and some old faces coming onto the calls, some young faces coming onto the calls, so it was like a really, really good event. So well done, team. So yeah, keep it up. We're going to keep running these, and there's going to be a little bit more information coming out about how we just want to, I guess, just do the coaching thing even a little bit better. We think we can take things up a notch for both our base program and our mastermind program. And so keep pace with that. That's coming over the course of the next week or so. So guys, happy Friday. I hope the day has started well for you. We haven't done a Q&A in the last couple of weeks because we've been doing podcast episodes instead, between myself and Mike, and then young Ash last Friday. So let's get back to another episode. If you have any questions that you want to ask live, please do so. Please do so. Please get them into the comments as they come in, and we can crack this on. Good morning, Nicky friend. How are you, my legend? Lovely to have your company here, brother. I hope you're well, pal. Joe's in here as well. Good morning, Joe. How's it going? I hope it's getting too chilly for you out there. Not getting too chilly for you out there. Good morning, Ash. Lovely to have your company in here as well. Xanth, lovely to see your beautiful face last night as well on the call. Super pumped about what you're doing. Joining the boys. That's really, really cool. So looking forward to seeing the results and how your training progresses there. So guys, without further ado, I think we might just rip into this one. Again, if you do have any questions come up, please pop them in the comments and I'll answer them over the course of this one here. All right, so let's get started in this. Let me find the video in the men's group so that I can actually display the questions for you guys. They can come up on the screen, which is always good. All right, let's do this. Can water boost metabolism? The short answer is yes, temporarily. So there's been some studies that have come out that basically suggest that approximately 2 liters of water can boost metabolism. In other words, the basic processes that run your body that require water, otherwise they can't run. Water is the medium of which the processes run. So things like building muscle tissue, metabolizing fat tissue, strengthening bones. If you don't have enough water, these processes struggle to happen. And so by boosting metabolism, what this means is that you get an increase, a temporary increase in the amount of calories burned because the system is able to run properly. Now, there is a suggestion that it increases by approximately 20 to 25% for the next hour after a decent surge of water. Now, is that going to add up to a hell of a lot? Over the course of the day, if you stay hydrated, yeah, it could be 150 to 200 calories over the course of the day is the suggestion, okay? However, where I think the big role for drinking or consuming lots of water is in what it's displacing. So if you are drinking water instead of whatever it actually is that contains calories, that's the key. I'm doing a reel right now, and check this out. So here is what happens when we talk about calories. See this packet of strawberries? This is a 16-ounce pack of strawberries. I don't know what that is in grams. I don't use ounces, but it says it on here, right? So here we go. 450 grams. That's 450 grams, half a kilo of strawberries. To those of you that are watching on, who wants to take a guess at how many calories that entire box is? I would love. Good morning, Sean. I would love for someone to have a stab at that. How much is that entire box of strawberries? Come on, guys. Hit us in the comments. I know Facebook takes a little bit of time for this to come through. I'd be interested in anyone. Do you have it right? Oh, Joe. Joe says 150 calories. Joe, you're about spot on. Yeah, about 145, 150 calories. So well done. 150 calories. Ironically, the exact same as this beer. And so when you think about the consumption of liquid calories, could you eat, for example, 5 boxes of strawberries in one sitting? 5 of these, which would be 2.5 kilograms of strawberries. Probably not likely. Could you drink 5 of these? Easily. Why? Because there's no chewing involved. There's no chewing involved. And so when you're drinking water or 0-calorie beverages or low-calorie beers as a replacement for calorie-laden fluids, it makes all of the difference. So it's not just the metabolic benefits, which I think are maybe in the vicinity of 100 to 200 calories a day, so still significant, but just not as significant as what the displacement of calories are. I'm just like straight up, one of the things that I do is I just don't consume, aside from low-calorie beers and skim milk in my coffees, like my instant coffees, right? I just don't consume any calories through beverages. And it's just so easy to limit them. Good morning, Cherie. Lovely to have your company here. So hopefully that's a really good comprehensive answer and helps to contextualize things a little bit. All right, next up. How bad is alcohol actually when you're trying to lose weight? Well, I guess it depends on the degree to which you're consuming the alcohol, right? So I haven't given up alcohol. I know a lot of you have decided to make the decision that alcohol doesn't play a very good role in your life, and so you've given it up, and that's a great decision if that's what it is for you. For me, it doesn't play a particularly bad role in my life. I enjoy a couple of beers each week. They're low-calorie beers. So to answer the question, like with numbers, so this guy is the equivalent of a touch over half, okay? So the way I think about this is that, okay, so I have maybe 3 low-calorie beers on a Friday afternoon. That is 270 calories, which is 1.5 protein bars, only that there's no protein in it. So I make the decision to consume a beer knowing that there's no benefit to it aside from the fact that I relax. So as long as you know what you're getting into, the problem is that when you consume this on like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, then it just gets really, really hard to offset. So how bad is alcohol? Well, I don't think it's that bad if it's in the vicinity of 5 to 6 standard drinks per week and it is done as part of your calories. When it comes on top of your calories, we tend to eat according to what we need, and then all the extras go on top, hence the weight gain. So hopefully that, again, is a good question and a decent enough stab at the answer. All right, next one. I'm confused by what metabolism is. What does it actually mean? Well, I did sort of cover that in the first question a little bit. So just to basically recap, what it means is that it's the sum of all of the processes that keep the lights on. That's what it means. Okay? So the example I always use is if you just sat on your lounge for the entire day, 24 hours, and you didn't get off the lounge to wee, poo, eat, anything. Maybe you were sick and you just sat there all day. That would be what's represented by my metabolism. Just keeping the lights on, keeping you alive. Everything that's additional to that, movement, exercise, walking around to eat, whatever it is, this is the extra kind of 30% that's above what we consider our metabolism. This we call our total daily energy expenditure. Okay? So we've got the big chunk of it, which is 70%, which is our metabolism. That's doing nothing. And then we've got about another 30% on top of that, which is mostly types of movement, exercise and not. That gives us a total daily energy expenditure. Okay? And then what we do on the other side between our food and fluids determines whether we will lose weight or not. We've got, let's put a number on this. Let's say that that is 2,500 calories between our metabolism and our daily activity. Okay, great. What did we eat? If we repeatedly eat 2,200 calories, then the car that is burning the fuel needs to borrow the deficit of 300 calories from somewhere. Where does it get it from? Here, body fat. Predominantly, if you've got enough protein in your diet. If you don't have enough protein in your diet, it will take a portion of it from fat, but a component of it from muscle, because you can break down muscle to turn it into calories for fuel. Okay? So this is why we need to keep our protein up to the levels that we've recommended to all of you guys. Hopefully that helps with your understanding of metabolism. Joe says, how do you prevent cramping during exercise? Great question, Joe. And assuming it's non-specific to your gut conditioning, there's a few reasons that people generally cramp. Number one is because from a warm-up perspective, they just haven't gone, the muscle is not prepared to do the work, right? Have you ever someone's called your name and you just quickly turned and you just pinched a nerve? It's almost happened because the muscle is not warmed up and it's just kind of grabbed and you were unprepared. It's just kind of the same thing's true with cramping during exercise. If you're not actually warmed up and prepared to do the movement that you're wanting to do or you started doing, then you can get cramping. Often it's caused by issues with salt balance, okay? So when people talk about electrolytes, what they're talking about mostly is sodium, which is a type of salt. So what can happen is if you've, let's say you've switched to a really strong whole food diet, like we recommend, one of the things that's going to happen is your salt levels are going to plummet, particularly if you're not eating canned tuna or beef jerky or any other kind of things like these, which will naturally, even though they're low calorie, they'll contain a fair bit of salt, okay? So if you're literally just eating fruits, vegetables, and lean meat, you're pretty much going to have a very low salt intake. Now, that's great from the perspective of calories because you're eating whole foods, but it could potentially lead to some electrolyte imbalances, which generally speaking, Joe, isn't critical. For you, I know, or I'm assuming rather, from your conditions, you probably get maybe some diarrhea with your gut. And if that's the case and you're losing a lot of muscle and electrolytes through digestion, that could be contributing. So I would say, Joe, if it's constant, it might be something that's actually occurring as a consequence of you losing lots of water and lots of salts. Yeah. And she says yes. Yeah. So that would be my kind of guess. If you are losing lots of water and lots of salts, then you're going to have perhaps a disturbed, So what you could do is you could ask yourself, well, if that's likely to be the case, would it be worth me taking an electrolyte powder as an example to make up for that and test whether that gets rid of the cramps? And you would need to make sure that it goes with enough water. Okay? Hopefully that answers the question, Joe. They're the main causes. So being ill prepared for the actual exercise or nutritionally under hydration, under electrolytes. Okay? Generally speaking, not the biggest problem for most people. Can I put on size while being in a deficit? Now, I'll just clarify that I think put on size means put on muscle. So can you put on size while being in a deficit? Yes, you can. It's more difficult. Okay, so if you think of things on a continuum, at one end, you have a calorie deficit. At one end, you have a calorie surplus. But laying over the top of that, at one end, you've got fat loss. At the other end, you've got muscle gain or leaning up and bulking, if you want to put it that way. And it's not that you're either doing one or the other. It's on a continuum. And the continuum would be determined by the level of nutritional deficit or surplus and whether you're doing exercise at the same time. Okay? So let me give you an example. Let's say you are in a super restrictive diet and you were doing, so a massive deficit, perhaps before you come into BBA, you're trying to do a like crazy diet, maybe man shake or something like that, and you ended up in a massive deficit and you weren't doing any resistance training, then it would be highly likely that you would lose lots of fat, lots of water, and lots of muscle. If you were in a very large deficit, you did resistance training, so you were stimulating the muscles, you had enough protein, you would lose a lot more fat, still some water, and a little bit less muscle. Now, right at the other end, right, is if you were in a massive calorie surplus, remember calorie surplus based on your total daily energy expenditure, you were eating way more than that, and you were doing lots of heavy resistance training, and you had an abundance of calories and an abundance of protein, you would put on muscle. If you were in with some fat, by the way, lots of fat, probably because you've got an abundance of calories. If you were consuming lots of calories, not doing much activity, no resistance training, regardless of the protein, you would put on a lot of fat. Okay, so you can see there it's a continuum. Okay, it's not one or the other. Now, in the middle is what I'd say like a Goldilocks zone, which some people can get to. This is called recomposition. This is when you are in a small nutritional calorie deficit. Let me put some numbers to it so it's easy to understand. Let's say that your maintenance calories are 2,500. Okay? And so what you did was ate at about 20, maybe 2,000 to 2,200. Okay? So a slight calorie deficit. You had enough protein in your diet, you were doing resistance training, and you still had that little bit of belly fat. Okay, particularly. You might be in a nutritional calorie deficit, but you have enough stored body fat that you can pull upon, So even though you don't have enough calories coming in from your diet, maybe short 200 or 300, you do have this on your belly. Breaking this down provides enough calories back to this side to build some muscle. This is called recomposition. Recomposition basically means changing in fat for muscle, but staying about the same weight. So for example, you might be at 80 kilograms and you might be a body fat percentage of 25%, which would mean that you would have 20 kilograms of fat on you. Okay, you following the numbers? You're 80 kilograms. You are 25% body fat, which means that you are 60 kilos lean mass and 20 kilos fat. With me on the numbers, guys? Let me know. By the way, morning, whoever just joined, I can't see because of Facebook user. All right. After 6 months of training, being in a slight nutritional deficit, but pushing hard on the weights, you increased your lean mass, that is everything except fat, including water, to 62 kilograms. You reduced your body fat by 2 kilograms. So muscle went up 2 kilograms, including water, lean mass we call that. Body fat come down by 2 kilograms. So weight stayed the same, but you look better. Why do you look better? Because you got less body fat. Your body fat percentage might have come down to, say, 20% instead of 25%, even though you weigh the same. This is a great place to be. The challenge is it's hard to stay there because the results are going to be slow because you're not in either of those massive poles. You're not either piling on weight and what we'd call bulking, or piling up, starving yourself and stripping off fat, water, muscle at the same level. So it's a good place to be in, but it also requires some patience because you're not going to see the result. You're not going to see. So this is a pound of fat. A pound of muscle would be about half that size. A pound of muscle. So, like, you're not going to see a 5 pound increase in muscle within a couple of months. Okay, muscle is hard to build. Hopefully, again, guys, that's a comprehensive answer. Why did my calorie deficit not work? I stayed within my calorie intake. Okay, and by the way, good morning, Maddie Harvey. I can see that it's actually you. Why didn't it work? I love this question because we get it frequently, and the simplest way to answer this question is to flip the question up the other way. I was in a calorie deficit and it didn't work. Flip it up the other way. I didn't lose weight, so I must not have been in a calorie deficit. The truth is, like, it's a guessing game. With all the numbers, guys, it's a guessing game. Why? Because equations are just impossible. They're just, you're trying to predict something that the body is so dynamic. So equations are impossible. In addition to that, MyFitnessPal is not an exact science. In addition to that, your tracking is inaccurate, right? But you're going to be in a much better position to find out 90% accuracy or 80% accuracy if you actually track everything. However, if you're in a sustained calorie deficit according to your numbers, but weight's not coming off, you are not breaking any human laws of thermodynamics. What's happening is either one, there's human error involved. Two, there is inherent issues with tracking and MyFitnessPal, etc. involved, or you're having some metabolic slowdown as a consequence of losing weight, becoming more efficient, which is completely natural, by the way. Okay? So this is where jumping on a coaching call through the week, like we've been doing, is really going to help. Regardless of how long you've been around, we can explain this with relevance to your individual circumstances if it doesn't make sense to talk about it on this level. Okay? And by the way, we're doing these weekly now. If I had 3 to 5 cans of Coke Zero per day, would this be a bad thing? And is it okay since it's 0 calories? So I'm always going to give you the answer in my opinion, and then if it's supported by science. So from a calorie perspective, it would be fine because there's no calories. Would I do it? No. I wouldn't do it because I just don't want that much artificial sweetener in my body. That's the basic reason. Now, don't take that and say, it causes cancer. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying I would just prefer not to put a whole bunch of stuff that's not natural in my body, where I would happily, you know, I could see an argument where you could say the same thing about these, right? So I choose my battles. There's other things that you can drink than Coke Zero. So me personally, if it was a choice between Coke and Coke Zero, I'd say 100% Coke Zero, but it doesn't need to be that binary choice. Make sense, guys? All right, next up, why am I strong one week and the next week completely nowhere near where I was the other week? And this is a great question, and this is completely normal, and it happens for a number of reasons. One, because you might not be fully recovered. Two, because you're tired. Now, check this out. I've been getting up and doing these coaching calls at ridiculous times of the morning, like it's 2:30 my time, AM, right? And so I have, for a short period of time, been going with a lot less sleep than I normally have. I went to the gym yesterday, and the combination of training mostly cardio for the marathon and and undersleeping, I was so weak it wasn't funny. Like, I couldn't squat my normal 2 plates anywhere near as strongly as I could. And it's frustrating, right? But it's a signal of a couple of things. Number 1, your focus has changed. Number 2, you're actually tired. Number 3, your nervous system hasn't recovered. Number 4, you are dehydrated, which is often the biggest cause. So generally speaking, you won't have lost strength within a week. It doesn't work like that. It's more likely that what's happened is the conditions of your body have changed. And not irreversibly. I had a nap for 2 hours today in the morning just to try to recover a little bit. Okay, 2 more questions. Should I change to a lower rep range if I want to get stronger? And the assumption is without putting on a bunch of muscle mass. So yeah, if you want to get stronger at the exclusion of putting on muscle mass, then yes, lowering the rep range generally is going to help. Lowering the rep range and going to longer rest breaks in between, so you're working on absolute strength, is generally going to help. Yes. Okay, final question. Can I have a protein shake right before a workout, and does it have any benefits? So there used to be this thing called the anabolic window. The anabolic window that everyone believed in. The anabolic window went like this. As soon as you've done your workout, you need to drive home as quickly as possible and get protein in. Okay? Otherwise, you'll miss the opportunity to grow muscle and benefit. Being completely disproven. When you drink your protein or when you eat your protein for that matter, is completely up to you. I would definitely suggest from a timing perspective, it's a good thing to think about how can I include protein. I don't mean protein shakes, I mean a protein source at all meals and snacks, right? So I wouldn't just back end the protein or front end the protein. I'd try to spread it across so that you have a constant flow of both protein for fullness and for supply of amino acids to our muscles so that they can build, the building blocks of muscles. Okay? Aside from that, should you be like driving home at 100 kilometers an hour from the gym to try to get the protein in? Nah, it just really does not matter. It doesn't matter whether you have it before your workout, after your workout, 3 hours after your workout. But on a macro level, what I would say is it would be best spread across the day rather than having 200 grams of protein in the morning and then nothing for the rest of the day. Okay, guys, that's a wrap. Hopefully that feels good, sounds good, helps out a few people. If there's any other questions you've got, feel free to turn up to next week's coaching calls. I'm here to serve, ready to rock and roll if you've got anything that you want to know more about. And otherwise, just shoot a message through the Success Team and we'll sort you out. On that note, guys, enjoy your Friday or Thursday. We love you and we'll chat soon.